Let me tell you something that's gonna sound a little messed up. There's a guy, let's call him Marcus. He graduated college at 22 with a decent job, made about $48,000 a year. Nothing crazy, but enough to live on. Now here's where it gets interesting. Marcus spent the next decade doing everything society told him to do. Worked hard, got a few promotions, upgraded his car when he got a raise, moved into a nicer apartment, went on vacation every summer, put a little money in savings. By 32, he was making $80,000 a year, and he had nothing, like almost literally nothing. A couple thousand in a savings account, $14,000 in credit card debt, and a car payment that was bleeding him dry every month. Meanwhile, his college roommate, same degree, same starting salary, had already bought a house, had over $90,000 invested, and was seriously thinking about retiring in his 40s. Same starting point, completely different destinations. The difference wasn't luck, it wasn't family money, it wasn't even income. It was 5 rules, 5 things one of them knew and the other one didn't. And I'm gonna walk you through every single one of them right now. Because if I had known these at 20, my financial life would look completely different. And I don't want you to learn them the hard way like most people do. Let's get into it. Rule 1. Your savings rate matters more than your salary. Everyone's obsessed with making more money. And look, earning more is great. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you income doesn't matter. But here's the thing nobody talks about at 20. The gap between what you make and what you spend is the actual number that determines your financial future, not your salary. The gap. Think about it this way. If you earn $50,000 and spend $49,000, you're basically treading water. If you earn $50,000 and spend $35,000, you've got $15,000 a year building your future. That's a completely different trajectory. There are people making $200,000 a year who are flat broke because they've expanded their lifestyle to match every dollar they earn. And there are teachers and nurses making $55,000 who retire early and travel the world because they learn to protect that gap. This concept is actually called savings rate, and it's one of the most powerful numbers in personal finance that nobody teaches you in school. Here's a rough breakdown that'll blow your mind. If you save 10% of your income, you're working the traditional 40-plus year career. Fine, normal, what most people do. But if you can push that to 25%, you shave years off. At 50%, most people can retire in around 15 to 17 years. At 75%, some people have done it in under a decade. Now, I know what you're thinking. 75%? That's insane. I have rent and bills. And yeah, I'm not telling you to live on rice and beans in the dark. But I am telling you that every percentage point you can add to your savings rate when you're young has a compounding effect that's almost impossible to catch up with later. The practical takeaway, before you decide what to do with your money, pay yourself first. Automate a transfer to savings or investments the moment your paycheck hits. Not what's left over after you've spent everything. Before. Make it automatic. Make it non-negotiable. Start with whatever you can. Even 5% is better than nothing. Then challenge yourself to increase it by 1% every few months. You'll be shocked how quickly it becomes normal. Rule 2. Compound interest is the closest thing to actual magic, but it needs time. Okay, everyone's heard of compound interest. You've probably nodded along in some class when a teacher explained it. But I don't think most people truly feel what it means until it's almost too late to take full advantage of it. Let me give you the example that actually made it click for me. Imagine 2 people. Person A starts investing $300 a month at age 22, gets an average 8% return per year, and stops at age 32. Just 10 years of contributions, then nothing. She just lets it sit. Person B starts investing $300 a month at age 32, the age that person A stopped, and does it all the way until they're 62. That's 30 years of consistent contributions. Who ends up with more money at 62? Person A, by a significant margin, even though she only contributed for 10 years and person B contributed for 30, because of the decades her money had to compound. The math on this is almost insulting. Person A put in $36,000, person B put in $108,000, but person A ends up ahead because time is worth more than money when it comes to investing. This is the thing that kills me when I think about being 20. I had no concept of this. I thought investing was something adults did. I thought I'd figure it out in my 30s when I was more stable, and every year I waited, I was throwing away years of compounding. Here's the practical thing I want you to take from this. Even a tiny amount invested in your early 20s is worth more than a larger amount invested in your 30s. Open a Roth IRA or contribute to your employer's 401k right now, today. Not when you've paid off your car, not when you feel more financially settled, today. Even $50 a month matters when you're 22. I know that sounds small, but $50 a month starting at 22 versus starting at 32 can mean tens of thousands of dollars difference by the time you retire. Time does the heavy lifting. You just have to start. Rule 3. Lifestyle inflation is a silent wealth killer. This one is sneaky. This is the one that got Marcus, the guy from the beginning of this video. Lifestyle inflation is what happens when your income goes up and your spending automatically goes up with it. You get a raise, so you get a nicer apartment. You get a promotion, so you trade in your used car for a lease on something new. You start earning more, so you eat out more, buy better clothes, take nicer vacations. None of those things are bad in isolation. Enjoying your money is fine. Life is supposed to be lived. But here's the trap. If every raise you ever get is immediately consumed by a lifestyle upgrade, you will never actually get ahead. You'll just be running on a fancier treadmill. Most people feel richer when their income goes up, but if their savings rate stays the same or gets worse, they're not actually more financially secure. They're just spending more. And now they need more to maintain their lifestyle. It becomes a cycle. The thing that wealthy people understand, and I mean genuinely wealthy, not just high earners, is that you have to let your lifestyle lag behind your income intentionally. When you get a raise, maybe you allow 20% of it to go toward lifestyle improvements and put the rest towards savings and investments. That way, you still enjoy the progress, but you're also genuinely building wealth. Here's a real example of what lifestyle inflation can cost you. Say you get a $10,000 raise at age 28. If you invest that extra $10,000 per year instead of spending it, over 30 years at 8% growth, you're looking at something in the neighborhood of $1 million. Not $10,000, not $300,000, potentially $1 million, just from that one decision made repeatedly. The question to ask yourself every time your income goes up isn't what can I afford now, it's how much of this can I put to work for my future self. Future you is a real person who will have real expenses and real desires and real limitations. Take care of that person. Rule 4. Debt is not a tool. For most people, it's a trap. I know there's a popular idea going around that debt is a tool and wealthy people use it to build more wealth. And that is technically true in very specific situations with very specific knowledge and discipline. But for most people in their 20s, debt is a trap disguised as convenience. Here's what consumer debt actually does. When you buy something on a credit card and carry a balance, you are paying significantly more for that thing than the sticker price. The average credit card interest rate right now is somewhere above 20%. That means a $1,000 purchase that you carry for a year costs you $1,200. A $5,000 vacation you finance could cost you $7,000 or $8,000 by the time you pay it off. You're paying tomorrow's money for today's fun. And tomorrow's money, as we just talked about, is incredibly valuable when you're young. Car loans are another one that quietly destroys wealth building. Most people in their 20s are driving cars they can't really afford, making monthly payments on a depreciating asset while also paying insurance rates that are higher because the car is newer and more expensive. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying never borrow money. A mortgage on a property you can actually afford can make sense. Student loans for the right degree can make sense. But the test is always, does this debt make me more productive, more valuable, or is it purely funding consumption? Credit card debt, car loans on expensive vehicles, buy now, pay later schemes, personal loans for lifestyle purchases, these are almost always traps. They don't create value, they just move spending forward and add a fee for the privilege. The rule I'd give my 20-year-old self, if you can't buy it with cash, ask yourself hard whether you actually need it right now. And if you do have consumer debt, get aggressive about paying it off before you invest heavily, because no investment reliably returns 20% a year, which means the debt is winning. Pay off high-interest debt first, then build your emergency fund, then invest. That order matters. Rule 5. Your biggest wealth-building asset is your ability to earn. Invest in it. This last rule is the one that most personal finance content completely ignores, and I think it might be the most important one for people in their 20s. Everything we've talked about, savings rates, compound interest, avoiding lifestyle inflation, staying out of debt, all of it assumes you have money coming in. And the size of that income matters enormously, especially when you're young and building from scratch. The best investment you can make in your 20s is in yourself, in your skills, your expertise, your professional network, your reputation. Here's what I mean. Let's say you spend $500 on a course that teaches you a skill. Copywriting, coding, data analysis, sales, financial modeling, something that makes you more valuable in the job market. If that skill results in even a $5,000 raise, that's a 900% return on your investment. No index fund on earth is giving you that return in year one. Or maybe instead of watching Netflix every evening, you spend 2 hours building a side skill that eventually lets you freelance on weekends. That could add $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 or more to your annual income. The compounding effect of that additional income invested over decades is staggering. Your 20s are when you have the highest energy, the lowest obligations, and the most capacity to learn quickly. That is an asset with an expiration date. Use it. Read, take courses, network intentionally, not just to schmooze, but to actually build relationships with people who are doing things you want to do. Find mentors. Ask better questions. Volunteer for projects at work that are slightly above your current level. Develop a reputation for being reliable and excellent. The person who earns $60,000 at 22 but invests heavily in their skills and earns $120,000 by 30 has dramatically more to work with than someone who earns $60,000 their whole career, even if the second person had a slightly better savings rate. Income is the engine. Everything else is the transmission. And in your 20s, you can work on that engine in ways that are much harder to do later on when life gets more complicated. Don't just optimize how you spend money, optimize how much money you can earn and how quickly you can grow that number. None of this is complicated. It's just not automatic. And the people who do it aren't special. They just started. You now know what Marcus's roommate knew. The question is what you're gonna do with it. If this was useful, share it with someone in their 20s who needs to hear it. And if you want me to go deep on any one of these topics, compound interest, getting out of debt, building income, let me know in the comments. I read them. See you in the next one.